everyone. I am here at the Digital Marketing and Digital Retail Transformation Assembly in Las Vegas. I am joined today by Mark Friedman. He's the president at Details Interactive. Thanks so much for joining us, Mark.
My pleasure, Cara. How are you today?
Good. We are very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm curious to hear a little bit about your background and what ultimately led you to Details Interactive.
Well, I've spent most of my career in direct-to-consumer businesses. Actually got my start in finance. I was an auditor very early on, but fortunately got out of that. Moved into a startup catalog business, first in finance, but then in catalog marketing. And then kind of just progressed into marketing and always have been interested in how you drive customers to do what you want them to do. The bridge between finance and auditing and numbers and metrics, was a good match for marketing, which is very analytical. And most of my career has been performance-based marketing. So I've worked in catalog businesses that have been only catalog pre-web, but also as they've morphed into internet businesses and also a number of businesses that had four-wall retail. So Brooks Brothers, and then 7 years at Steve Madden as president of e-commerce.
So you're now in a mentoring role with early stage startups. And have you noticed anything in these startups that larger companies should be taking note of?
That's a good question. One of the things is that larger companies are so metric driven and so success and failure driven, which is is not a bad thing, but there's not enough failing that at least people acknowledging that they're failing. And in the smaller businesses and the startups, they're failing at very high rates, but there's lots of good successful ones as well. I've noticed that the companies that I've mentored, almost all of them have had to pivot at some point in their process. Oftentimes I've seen them, they come in and they think, geez, we have a direct-to-consumer business that we really want to start. But in fact, they realize how expensive it is to acquire customers. So then they think about, well, what would we do differently? And many of them pivot to become B2B.
So I do just want to talk about DTC brands, and it's been a rocky year. I know just recently Brandless had a closure, for example. Do you think this slowdown is a red herring of what's to come or something else? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we are now, we're taping here early March, and coronavirus is among us. And, that is clearly already starting to impact the travel industry. You would expect that the malls are going to be impacted. Unfortunately, that might bode well for the internet, you being able to buy more from remote. But, look, I think these businesses, we have an ongoing shakeout. People have talked about the fact that, retail is dead. I don't really believe that. I believe bad retail is dead. And all too often you walk into stores, you can't find what you want. There's nobody to help you. But those businesses that are recommitting efforts to training staff, to helping the consumer when they walk in, not to overtly sell you stuff, but to be able to answer questions and really focus on conversion rate. You walk into a shoe store, I was at Madden for a long time. You walk into a shoe store and, guy or woman walks in and they ask for the size 9 of that shoe. Well, all too often they'd be bringing out just that shoe. Well, what about, something else that a customer might want? So, I think a lot of it is we do things to ourselves, as retailers, that we could be better servicing the customer.
Interesting. So given the increase of competition in e-commerce, obviously brand loyalty is a leading challenge for today's marketers. So tell us a bit more about your experience in customer acquisition and retention programs.
So while at Madden, and for those that might not know, Madden is a public company, very heavily geared towards wholesale, so selling their products not only on stevemadden.com, but also at Nordstrom and Macy's and Amazon and Zappos and all of their associated stores. And we also had our own stores as well. And while I was there, we created a loyalty program. I've been gone 2 years, and the loyalty program still exists, and they've embellished it, more. But the whole idea was to be able to provide consumers another reason to come to stevemadden.com. And you could come for price, you could come for product, and we had a broad array of men's and women's products. But you want to try and get more The average purchase is 1.5 times a year, but I know, at least on the women's side of business, they're buying many more than 1.5 pairs per year. So, how do you get more market share? And, we believed that the loyalty program, as with other businesses, would help us to get more wallet. But in our case, it wasn't just about offering discounts. We were trying to offer an experience. For the millennial customer, they're very focused on not just about the discount, but what can you do for me that I can't buy for myself? So we tried to build a program that was around both promotion as well as experience.
So you recently started a new project, the Marketing Playbook. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
We've been listening in. So what are some of the challenges that you're hearing from executives on marketing during this digital transformation?
So, thanks. The Marketing Playbook is a podcast that I just started, and people can download it wherever they get their podcasts. And I've kind of started it as a hobby, but also, maybe it drives business as well. You hear a lot of similar things. And so far at this date, I've had the opportunity to speak to the CEO of Levi's and to the head of marketing at Reebok. So, two obviously very strong brands. You hear a lot about attribution. We call that the A word because lots of people don't want to talk about it. Attribution, just a fancy term for I spend $100 and where is that $100 going and how is it helping to drive traffic to either my stores or my online business or what have you. So that's a big challenge for people, is how to rationalize their spend, having a good understanding of, if they have want to commit X amount of dollars more, where should the next channel be that I spend that money? And, in one of our sessions here that I moderated, I put out the imaginary, all right, somebody drops $1 million in your lap in your marketing budget. And now I asked, all right, where are you going to spend it? Most oftentimes people, they have ideas, but they don't have a well-defined game plan as which are the next most efficient methods to spend money on.
So you are also moderating another session this afternoon. It is a panel on the changing role of the CMO. And I know from being on that prep call that people have quite an opinion on it. What is your overall thought on this? Are we going to see more brand and customer officers, or will CMOs come back around?
I don't know if the title will come back around, as I've and as we heard on the prep call, most everybody, feeling that the traditional definition of the CMO just doesn't exist anymore. And when I get calls and talk to recruiters and see clients, they're asking for the head of marketing to be just about everything that could ever possibly fall under marketing. They want you to be the brand person. They want you to be a performance person. They want you to understand traditional media, so outdoor and radio and TV. And then they want you to be a paid search guru. And oh, by the way, let's throw some influencer and social there. And oh, by the way, we want you to be, out of a digitally native brand because that's the only cool thing that's out there. And you should have a little tech thrown in. So anyway, that's a long-winded, way to say that the role is evolving, continues to evolve. You hear lots of titles: Chief Digital Officer, Chief Customer Officer. At the end of the day, the senior marketing role is to protect the brand, in my opinion, and drive revenue. So however we call that role, that position, I think, is going to, continue. It needs to get support not only from the CEO, and the head of the organization, but from the other C-level people around the table. And everybody seems to, put a target on the back of the CMO. The change out rate, continues to get shorter and shorter. And, you don't see that quite the same way if I'm the chief human resources officer or if I'm the CIO or even, the head of the retail chain. It's more about the marketers.
We'll be curious to hear how that panel goes
Me
and
too.
hear the opinions. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I'm curious, you've been around for the day and a half of our assembly. What are your thoughts on our smaller scale programs? Obviously, we're a bit more intimate than some other conferences. So, what are the benefits of attending these smaller programs?
Yeah, small is great because you get to have some more one-on-one, kinds of conversations, not only with the providers that you all have brought in, but with the other delegates and attendees. You're sharing 3 or 4 meals. You can pretty much sit down wherever you want. You get to see businesses that are direct to consumer. I've met some people here that were B2B. I've seen some providers. So, small is and intimate is sometimes very nice.
Well, good. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.